Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast with your host, Gui Costin. The goal of this podcast is to give listeners a unique look into sales strategies from top industry executives. We introduce you to the heads of sales and heads of distribution who will help you understand the inner workings of the successful sales organizations from philosophy to execution. This podcast is essential for sales professionals seeking wisdom from the best in the field. If you're not familiar with Dakota and their Dakota Rainmaker content, please check out dakota.com to learn more about their services.
This episode is brought to you by Dakota Marketplace. Are you tired of constantly jumping between multiple databases and channels to find the right investment opportunities? Introducing Dakota Marketplace, the comprehensive institutional and intermediate database built by fundraisers for fundraisers. With Dakota Marketplace, you'll have access to all channels and asset classes in one place, saving you time and streamlining your fundraising process. Say goodbye to the frustration of searching through multiple databases, websites, Form ADVs, and say hello to a seamless and efficient fundraising experience. Sign up now and see the difference Dakota Marketplace can make for you. Visit dakota.com/Dakota-Marketplace today. What is up, everybody? It's Gui Costin, founder and CEO of Dakota. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rainmaker Podcast. This is an extremely special one because I have Stacy Havener from Havener Capital Partners, basically a stalwart, a legend in our business. And Stacy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Stacy Havener didn't come from Wall Street. There was no big firm, no Ivy League, no traditional path, just a fierce belief that the right story told the right way can change everything for an underdog. She's the founder and CEO of Havener Capital Partners, a sales and marketing consultancy built to give boutique asset managers an edge in the capital raising game. Stacy has raised over $8 billion for emerging funds, leading to more than $30 billion in follow-on AUM. She's done it with a different playbook, one rooted in storytelling, strategy, and a scalable sales process shaped by behavioral finance. She understands that investors don't make decisions with spreadsheets alone. Her approach meets them where they are, making fundraising more human, more effective, and impossible to ignore. You have no idea just how meaningful it is to me, how much I've respected you, and what you've been doing, because we've been in the same boutique kind of space, if you will, for a long time, experiencing a lot of the trials and tribulations of working with smaller managers and helping them grow. And
yes.
Right.
And everyone should know, this is the first time we're actually meeting in person.
That's crazy.
Which is wild, because we've been in the industry for over, let's not say how long.
No, and you've also, your team, you guys have been incredible partners to us on the database side. And so we're so grateful for that. And it's just such a great business. And if you really love working with small firms and helping them grow, and I know your business, as you're saying, has evolved. So, but could you take us back kind of from the beginning, soccer days in college and the whole thing?
I would absolutely love to. So I did not plan to be here. I will preface this story with this, and I will back it up, as Guy said, to say, in my career, I've raised $8 billion. That's led to $30 billion in follow-on AUM for startups, emerging managers, specialists, like the firms that really shouldn't win. And on paper, the fact that that's sort of my receipts doesn't make any sense. I'm a blue-collar kid from a working-class town who got the wrong degree from the wrong school.
Oh my God.
And I'm a woman.
What was the wrong degree?
English. I actually wanted to be a literature professor, but I paid my way through school. I paid my way through undergrad. I was going to have to pay my way through grad school. And my high school soccer coach and I had stayed in touch. He had a day job, which was running $1 billion of small cap equity. This is in the 90s. He knew my situation, and he said, why don't you come here? I want to launch a fund. You can work here, save some money, go back and get your PhD, and off you go. I obviously never left. We raised $500 million in 2 years. Then I went on to raise $3 billion in 5 years off a $17 million base. And I did not realize that that wasn't supposed to happen. Like, I didn't get the memo that that wasn't supposed to work. And I think part of the reason it did is because I didn't know how it was supposed to be done. I went to what I knew best, which was storytelling. And it took me a long time to unpack what was I actually doing in a repeatable, systemized way. But it was that. I believe people do business with people in every industry, even this one. And I also believe everyone has a story, and that your story is money. And I feel very grateful and blessed to lead Havener as we help our clients tap into the power of all that.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
incredibly touching, because I feel the same way about storytelling.
Yes.
Right? People remember stories.
Yes.
And we never sell to the end buyer. So if you're telling numbers,
Great
they can't
point.
retell it, right?
Yes.
So talk about the storytelling, how you think of storytelling about investment strategies.
Sure. I think you hit a very key point there, Gui, which is it's not that the data doesn't matter and the numbers don't matter. It's the order in which we deliver the information. So we believe that the most powerful way to sell is story-led, data-backed. But in our industry, it's flipped. And it makes some sense. I mean, I think one of the great things and one of the challenges about people in this industry, everyone's wicked smart, right? You have really smart fund managers and you have really smart allocators. And so we're operating up here. But what we miss is that human behavior, behavioral science tells us that 95% of a buying decision is subconscious. So this is a study out of Harvard. 95% of the buying decision is subconscious, which means it doesn't happen in our brain. It starts with our heart. And in our industry, we skip that part. So we aim our pitch at the person's head, and we've skipped the first arbiter that needs to actually say, hey, this is cool. This is interesting. Like, I'm the heart, I'm vibing. Brain, I need you to come in and actually spend the time and do the work on the other bits, the data and all the smart stuff that we want to talk about. So to us, that's just a huge miss. And salespeople using a typical playbook would operate. They would lead with data, and that's the broken way.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was, like I told you earlier, I was consulting,
Yes.
if you will. I don't do this a lot, right? But they just asked me to come up to their customer
I love
database.
that.
Many questions. I'd love to have you comment on the
Yeah,
question they asked.
tell me.
They go, should we have our PM smile during meetings?
This is so in my wheelhouse. Of course. Yes. Yes. Right? And get this. The studies, again, I think for us, and I'm sorry if I'm geeking out on the BFI stuff, because I really love it. Like, I think what differentiates sort of the new playbook we use is the art of storytelling, the science of human behavior, and the power of personal brand. So we're camped out on this science piece, which I love. So the studies show that smiling is a huge impact on people feeling like they like, know, and trust you. And the little bit I'd add is your teeth. Good would be, you sort of smize. Better would be you actually really smile. Best would be you smile and show your teeth. Right. Is that crazy? But again, like, we forget that allocators are still people. They're humans. This is how human buying occurs. This is how relationships are built at a very, very basic scientific level.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do, I love Starbucks. I go get coffee all the time. And to smile at the baristas when I'm picking just smile.
Oh, they're probably like, what's happening here?
It's just amazing how their face lights up. Because they're busy. All of a sudden you just say, hey, thanks. And you smile. I mean,
it changes your day. I mean, think about that. Like, even when you're out and about in a city or in an elevator, if someone smiles at you, even if they don't say anything, how powerful is that? Like, it changes your whole vibe. Yeah. Maybe for the rest of the day.
I was explaining to the team yesterday that I've, for 19 years, worked for Alan Breed, president of Edgewood.
Okay.
And, he's 6'4", 172, and he really doesn't want to shake hands. He just wants to give you a hug.
Oh,
okay.
This is someone that's
smiles
like cut from
all
the
the
same
time,
cloth as me. Yes.
Brilliant, right? He's such a great investor, an unbelievable leader. He's been I've tried to emulate everything at Dakota after what he's done at Edgewood. He's just an incredible guy, so positive, so bright. In 19 years, where and when? There's never, if we need him or the team anywhere, never one time. And then he shows up, and I literally, when I first met him, I said, now who? Before I knew what a brilliant investor he was, I'm like, who actually manages the money? Because you have way too much personality. You know what I mean? But one of our largest clients in Michigan, you know what the chairman says after every meeting? I'm not kidding, we go once a year. He goes, Alan, thank you for making it so easy for people like us to understand what you do.
That's great.
We're so grateful. Right. And so I was trying to encourage those guys.
Great.
He smiles all the time. He brings it down to common sense language so people can really grasp the story. Right. And you can tell that like they're listening and they're resonating. And like, he's like, well, you guys would probably use this type of a product. You know how you use this. This is why we own it. And
that builds rapport. And we say all the time, there are these things we say, like, it's all about relationships. And then everyone goes, yeah. And it's like, really, what the F does that actually mean to you? Right? Does that mean that like you have, well, no one has this anymore, but like you have a golden Rolodex? You can call somebody? Is that a relationship? I don't know. Right? Is it how many connections you have on LinkedIn? I don't know. Right? So I think what you're describing is that's a real connection.
Right.
And we forget that as connected as we are now with social media and all these things, we're actually in an epidemic of loneliness. All the studies show that people are more lonely now than they've ever been. And so what Alan is doing is fantastic because he's showing up as a real person.
Well, one topic yesterday, and I'd love to have you comment on this, and let's just keep unpacking this.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's very special. So the pitch deck, I'm going to tell two quick stories.
Okay. Oh gosh, tell me.
So the questions they kept asking, like, what should we do with the pitch deck and the whole thing? And I said, you should leave it in the bag. And the guy goes, wait a second, I don't know if I can do that. Like the whole, so I want you to comment on that, but I just want to give you a little context.
Keep going. I'm already loving it.
Another Alan Breed. And this was a beautiful one. They redid their brand, maybe 2012-ish.
Okay. Really
what it is today, and it's awesome. And one partner comes into Alan and he goes, Al, we really need to redo the deck. And he looked at his partner and he goes, 100%. I'm with you. We redo the deck. He goes, but I just want to be very clear that this deck, we've raised $10 billion. Because
that's a good point.
I don't think they're investing in the deck.
It's true.
Right, they're investing in us, the people, the investors, the people.
That's
the people business. So would you mind just, in the meetings, are people relying on the deck? And remember when you were just talking about the smile?
Yeah.
You know what I said to them about the deck? Is I said, if they're looking at a deck, they're not looking at the portfolio manager.
Right.
And you have an hour. So why wouldn't you make them connect with the portfolio manager without looking at a deck and get to know that person in a conversation?
Yeah. It's great advice, Gui. I am a big fan of ditch the pitch. That's the framework that we teach. Ditch the pitch, which starts with leaving the pitch deck in your bag, especially for a first meeting. I want to give you another behavioral science piece. So studies show that a prospect thinks a meeting is a great meeting if they talk 70% of the time. Think about that. That means...
this is like gold. This is gold.
Right? So if you have an hour, the prospect needs to talk for 42 minutes. What meeting with a fund manager and an allocator have you ever heard a prospect talk for 42 and the fund manager talk for the remainder? Like, it just doesn't happen because we feel pressure in this meeting to pitch. We feel like this is our chance. We've got them captive for an hour. We need to talk. And actually, the science is the opposite of that. So leaving your pitch deck in your bag forces you not to use it as a crutch. And there's one other really big thing I want to highlight here that you naturally went to in your advice to this client, which is let's put ourselves in the shoes of a fund manager. Are they really comfortable in these meetings, typically?
No.
Alan is, but typically they're not. And so we're asking them to do something that's very much outside their comfort zone. So when you're nervous or you feel like you're anxious about something, you are going to go to a crutch. And the pitch deck's perfect. So instead of even the fund manager looking at the prospect and talking, they might be inclined to just read what's in the presentation because they feel uncomfortable. So we also have to give everybody some space and grace here, that we're asking fund managers to do something that's not naturally their strong suit or something they enjoy. And our job, in my opinion, as salespeople, is to shake the scaries right out of that situation and make sure they know that we are not going to let them fail. We are not going to let them. There will be no kicking under the table. There will be no after the meeting conversation about, I wish you hadn't done this. If I don't fix it in the meeting, that's on me. This is my meeting to run. I want to make you fund manager look like a rock star, and I want to make you allocator get all your questions answered. And so I will be the Jimmy Fallon of this thing and ensure everybody's having a great time here. And I think, again, it sounds so basic, but like this is what's happening in the human dynamics. The pitch typically gets in the way. It really does.
So should we really release this podcast? Because if we do, you might not have the capacity to take on all the business. I mean, I have to test your capacity because everybody needs to be listeing to this and talking to you. I mean, this is utter genius.
I'm super passionate about it.
No, but you actually have it down to a science.
Yeah.
Right? It's really an art form, what you're saying, and it's the antithesis of how our industry thinks and acts.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then I think what happens, well, thank you. That was very kind. And
it's actually true though, because if you think about what you're going through right now, you're demystifying what people think how they should behave, that we're in a serious business.
I know.
Whereas no, it's as a human business.
That's right.
You're buying the person, not the deck, not the track record. You're buying, do you believe this person has passion? They can keep doing this and you can relate to them. Yeah.
Especially again, in the beginning. So like again, just like the story and data piece, the pitch deck's important. It should, look the part. It should be institutional quality. It should have, very useful pages in it. But to rely on it is a broken myth, right? Yeah. I think that it's freeing for fund managers and sales teams when they sort of allow themselves to challenge the status quo of what they've been told. The meetings are more fun, which basically means people get along in a different way, maybe better, and more deals get done. So it's like a win-win. You're going to have more fun in the meeting, which is going to change the whole dynamic. Are you going to win all your deals? No. But you're probably going to come at it from a much different place than if you're hardcore dog and pony pitching and then like, how'd I do afterwards, and everyone's like,
did you have a conversation or not? Right?
Yeah, do you know anything about the prospect at all?
And
so
gosh, I had that yesterday going in spades with these guys because I was like, you have to understand, I'm telling you this story because I know it works, right? I wasn't going as deep into behavioral science as you are, which I love. Yeah. And that's why this story needs to get out because you're really demystifying this. But I said, look, out of pure selfishness and boredom, I couldn't sit in these meetings and be bored to tears. I had to liven it up. We had to get it going. 100%. And so I'm always calling people out. I'm like, hey, you really should tell them about this and you should talk about this. Let's, you know what I mean?
Run the meeting.
Yeah, run the meeting. That's the job.
Run the meeting. That is your job. But this is a two-way street because it is the salesperson's job to run the meeting. It is the fund manager's job to let them. Yeah, okay? This is a partnership. Yeah. Totally. So there are certain fund managers who come in, they're like, stand down, I got this, okay? Let's slow your roll, okay? I know what the prospect wants. I've done a ton of prep work. Big. The prep work you do before you get in the meeting. I know what they want. I'm gonna make you look like a rock star. Just we got this. And the thing is, in your situation with Alan, when you've been working with a fund manager or a team for a long time, you get it down. I mean, it becomes you're just clicking, right? You know exactly how the meeting's going to run.
I couldn't agree. Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a salesperson who is a little intimidated by the PM and doesn't want to do that pre-work or doesn't have the confidence? Okay. What advice would you give?
Great question. Very real. Very real. So the prep actually will help in this, I think. So we have this meeting prep template that we use. And we try to keep it to one page and we break it down by so who are we meeting with, but not just it's the CIO of the blah, blah, right? Who are the people? What do we know about them that we think the fund manager might even find interesting? Or again, business with people. What's the goal of the meeting? I'm a big believer that it's incremental commitments here. We're not trying to close a deal unless that's where we are in the process. So what's the goal of the meeting? What do I, as the salesperson, think we need to lean into? What do I know from my prep conversation with the allocator? What do I know that they want to talk about, and what do I think are potential like hot buttons. Okay, so here's why this helps the salesperson who maybe is a little intimidated. So before you go into the meeting with the allocator, you have your document. Okay, you're going to say to the fund manager, hey, can I grab you for 15 minutes before we go into this meeting? I've put together this prep document. I just want to walk you through it. I also want to talk about some of these questions and make sure we're ready, or do we need any information? Now, the first time that you do this as a salesperson, the fund manager might kind of be like, okay, like whatever, I don't really know what's happening here. Remember, they're typically not that comfortable in these meetings. So what happens over time, you keep showing up as the salesperson with these documents. You keep running that meeting and showing them that I got you in this meeting. They are going to start to rely on this. They're going to say, Gui, where's that document? Can you put the picture of the person on here? Like, can you add, I went on LinkedIn and looked them up. So they start to realize that the meetings go better and they start to rely on you as a partner in this. Then your confidence starts to build, because the dynamic of, I guess this is audio, but the dynamic of it is it's not fund manager and I'm like just the salesperson carrying the fund manager's bag.
Yeah.
It's like we're in this together. And that's incredible for confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like pure gold, right? The preparation.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, and that the salesperson really is the Jimmy Fallon, the choreographer, right?
Yes.
Managing.
Great word. Choreographer. Meeting, right? Absolutely.
So I did give a little tip and trick.
What is it?
Right. So I said, one of the prep little things you can do, right, to tweak the PM a little bit and say, hey, look, I did a prep call.
Exactly.
With this person. I'm going to tell you what they said to me is they said, I can't do monologues. Okay. We have to have a conversation. So please tell the PM, like, I'm here to have a conversation. Yeah. I'm not here to be spoken to for 45 minutes.
No.
So if you literally sell it like that, then they're like, oh, so yeah, you have to actually ask them questions and we'll be invited.
Yeah.
Like, in short answer first, right? They'll Keith McDowell, like short answer first, right?
Yes.
Right.
And if you're Jimmy Fallon, your job is to be the question asker. So now I'm making you the allocator and the fund manager. Yeah. Let's say you're the fund manager now. So if we're in a meeting and you're going on and on, I have to save you, because my job is to make you look like a rock star. So you're blathering on and the allocator I can see is glossed over. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I can't let this continue. So I have to find my moment to say, Gui, I know you are so passionate about this. This is amazing. I know that Gui would talk about this all day if we let him, but I just want to go back to the question, or I want to go to this other piece, or I have to your point, choreograph what's happening. I cannot let you like hang out on the monologue line and die, a slow death. And if we put ourselves in the allocator's shoes, I mean, for real, think about their job. They have to do these meetings all fucking day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's true.
Sorry to swear.
Not at all.
But they have to do it all day. So imagine how they feel. Bored. Like, here comes another fund manager, and here comes another pitch deck, and here comes 45 minutes of them droning on. They're bored.
Right.
So let's not do that. Let's not.
Brilliant.
And
so the advice, so you have an unbelievable pre-call doc,
yes,
right, that to prep. Your strongest recommendation is to absolutely sit down with the PM,
yes, 15
minutes before, and walk through how this whole thing's going to work, and really get permission from them to interject, to get off your monologue line.
Let me run the meeting.
Right.
Absolutely.
And to make this a back and forth. And then you said, I think the most brilliant, so many brilliant things, the 70%.
Yes.
If you can get them talking 70% of the time you're a professional investor, they're a professional allocator, right?
Yeah.
And they're a professional that's asking questions. If you can flip the script.
Yes.
Now, you don't want to walk out of there without you not made your point, right? Of course.
Agreed.
But if you can be asking them questions, because one question that I said in my book, I would say, after you do your 2 minutes to center the conversation so the allocator knows like who you are, what you do, so they know what to listen for.
Yeah.
I said the number one question you have to ask before anything starts is, please walk me through your investment decision-making process. Like, you need to get them telling you how they want to hear from you, right?
Yeah.
And then go to Q&A. It needs to go for 45 minutes like this. And no doubt.
I love that. Can I add something to this for people to try? This goes back to our ditch the pitch framework, because you're absolutely right that you want to get them talking about their investment process. I would even, because remember, we're not going to get to 70%. That's 42 minutes. That's a lot, right? But even if we go for 50-50, all right? So we want them talking for half an hour and we're going to talk for a half hour, give or take. That's still challenging. So especially in a first meeting, if we sit down and we say, okay, well, first you got the scaries that you got to shake out. So I would look around and be like, wow. Like, look for something in the office. This is my move.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, look for something in the office that you can sort of say, what is this? Like, if there's a picture hanging on the wall in someone's office or conference room, it means something. It means something to them.
Yeah.
So just like knock the awkwardness of a meeting right out. It's a gorgeous day. Look at this view. What is this picture? Wow, the wood in your office is insane. Oh, it's, barn wood. It's reclaimed barn wood from Iowa or whatever you told me, right?
Yeah.
Because it just takes the edge off. That's my first thing.
Love that.
Okay, then when we sit down.
So you're making it human. We're humans.
Because meetings are awkward.
Right.
Right? And we don't all know each other, so it's weird. So let's just stop. Let's just acknowledge that. And then have them go first. Tell me, like, let's pretend it's a family office. Obviously, I know about the family. Like, tell me the story. Tell me the story of your firm and the clients. And don't just ask one question and let them talk. Ask more, because you need to get them talking for 30 minutes is our new number we're going for.
Yeah.
Ask questions and then ask the investment process one. So now you've got them. People like to talk about themselves. So you've got them talking about themselves. They're proud of what they've built. They're proud of their heritage. They love their clients. Talk. Yeah. Tell me about the investment process. Tell me what you're doing in this space. Like, if I'm a credit manager, like, tell me, like, what's going on in credit? What are you guys talking about? Talk. And then, because you're Jimmy Fallon and you got your fund manager, you have a whole bunch of unstructured data here, anecdotal data that you can now weave back into the conversation to make it relevant to them. So I totally agree with you. I would almost camp out on them for like the first 15 and then say, would it make sense if I told you our story? Not me, but like fund manager. Would it make sense if, Alan told you the story of Edgewood and how he came to be sitting here? Yes, I would love that. Great. Yeah. And you're off.
It's just awesome. And I love opening it up and asking a question on something in the office.
Yeah.
Right, softening up.
I did it here. I think it's so ingrained in me, right? I walked around your office, which is like gorgeous. Right. And it just takes the edge off. And I think even seasoned 20 plus year veterans, like we're still people. I was still nervous to meet you, even though I know you and I knew we were going to be friends.
Right.
So that's okay. That's real.
So these different questions on while we're in the meeting and the pitch. I was saying to the team yesterday, because they just asked me so many questions. It was kind of crazy, the stuff I was coming up with, but it was all real. I always felt when we're with Edgewood, and really most of our managers just know the company so deeply. Yes. But you never know who was in the prior days, weeks, talking about the same stock.
Great point.
Right. And so and then they might be reacting to you, but they've heard the pitch from 3 other people in 3 different ways, right?
Yeah.
So even after you talk about a particular stock, why wouldn't you just ask them? It's like, you've probably seen a lot of people come in to talk about this.
Oh, I love that question.
Right. So now you're putting it back to them, and then they're going to have to sort of explain to you what other people say. Yeah. But differentiated point of view about the investment theme.
Love it. Right? I love the differentiated point of view. The other thing I think that helps fund managers, again, they're going to want to go deep. Why? Because it's their comfort zone. They want to talk about the investments. They are waiting for you, Jimmy Fallon, to give them permission to geek out on their portfolio or the market. They're waiting. You have to make them wait, right? Like, we're going to get there. But when they get the go, they're going to dive deep. So if that happens often, you could help them by saying, think of 3 things. What are the 3 most important things you want to say about this company, and make them different? Like, at least one of them should be a really differentiated point. Yeah. Maybe you get 5, but we're not going over 5. All right. So I think you were spot on when you said, if it's a company like everyone sort of knows and is talking about, it's like, okay, like how many times are we going to talk about their, their PE or their, their whatever.
What's
their
the story,
cash.
right? And
like, tell me something.
Right.
I already know all that. I can look that up.
Yeah.
Usually the things that somebody can't find on their own, the story. Why? Oh, I've owned this particular company 10 times throughout my career. I love it, and here's why. I first bought it in, whenever, right? Like make it interesting.
But what the audience has to,
yeah.
We're going to pause because we're going to unpack something you just said.
What?
Well, why?
Why?
So I
yes.
told the team yesterday, they said, well, they force us to go through these sections. I said, I know, but you're answering the question, but you're not explaining why your process is that way, because that's what brings it back to a story. Like what? So yeah.
I love that.
Right? Talk about the asking why, explaining why, because that's a story that can get in someone's head, the thinking behind why you're structured in a certain way or you do something in a certain way.
Yeah. And also this goes back, I know we've both been in strategic coach, but this goes back to that idea of asking why 5 times.
Oh, my
favorite.
favorite.
It works internally too. Like if you've got a problem, you're sort of like, okay, ask why 5 times, you're usually going to get to the root of it. So why is an incredibly powerful question. And I think you said something really great there, which is they're going to ask you a question, but that's probably not really the answer they want.
Right.
Right. So the first thing I would say is exactly what you coached. Like try to think about why they're asking the question so that you can go a layer down. The other thing I would say is it's okay to ask why. Like, oh, that's a really interesting question. Answer and then say, I'm curious, did I get to the heart of it? Like why were you asking that one? Do you want me to go deeper on that topic? Or is there some nuance that you wanted to dive into that I haven't touched on? Like invite them in as opposed to just sort of everyone sitting like, okay, you asked a question, here's the answer. Next, right? Like, can we just sort of
but now you're developing a connection.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because now they're starting to reveal more and more of their thinking of why they're asking the questions.
Yeah.
And you're delivering those answers. And
they're starting to feel comfortable that they can ask those questions and that it's not, like you said earlier, it's a very professional business filled with very, very intelligent people. And sometimes we sort of show up the way we think we should. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to give them the answer they want. Well, how about just give them the real answer?
Right.
Right? And you don't have to just sort of put a period and the end it. Like make sure that you answered what they were trying to get at.
Yeah.
Also the job of the salesperson. If they feel like, oh, Gui's like wrinkling his nose at that one and it's like he's not, or he's like sort of looking like we're not getting there. Pause, everybody. Gui, is that what you wanted to get out of it? Or is it, do you want to, go more into that? And
could you take that one step further? You just, because I want to make sure we don't lose this, because I think of our listeners are definitely caught up in maybe carrying the bag.
Yeah.
And how critical the role is of the Jimmy Fallon, the role of the salesperson in the meeting. And the great salespeople are exactly what you're saying. They're choreographing and bringing out and preparing it. So it's not just you're sitting there.
There silent. Right. I was in a meeting once. There were multiple salespeople in here and someone was on their phone and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Put your phone down. You have really valuable role. I'll give another thing that I think is an important role for the salesperson. You got to choreograph. You got to Jimmy Fallon it. The other thing is in the meeting, and maybe I'm old fashioned, which is also true and fine. I always have a pen and I always have my notebook. Okay. And I'm going to write down a lot of things in this meeting, but they're not going to be the things that the typical salesperson would write down. Especially if you're new, there is an element of the fund manager answers a question and you want to capture that so that you can know it and maybe tell other people that. But the most important thing, in my opinion, for the salesperson to watch and note is what the allocator is doing. So we train our sales teams to write down every single question the person asks, every single one. Q, ... and insert question. Q, every question. If they ask a question twice, you got to come back to that because something didn't hit or they need more on that. If they wrinkle their nose or, if they smile, note it. Like, I want a play-by-play of what that allocator did in the meeting. And we're sort of thinking that we're here with the fund manager, so we're on his or her side, and that's what we need to be like taking notes on. We told them this and we told them that and we told them that. I don't give a shit what you told them. What did they say? That's what I want. Because, and this actually goes to data. Can I take it to data?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Because it's the same thing for me in a CRM. Typically, salespeople want to track what they did. I sent them a fact sheet. Okay? Did they open it? Did they click on it? Did they ask you a question? That's what I want. I want sassy data. I want data that talks back to me. Do your job. Send the fact sheet, send the pitch book, make the calls. Yes, great. Glad you put it in the CRM. But the real value for me is what the allocator is doing, not what you're doing. We track something, it's totally made up, but whatever. We call it the behavioral quotient. So every deal gets a BQ, okay? The BQ tracks the behavior of the allocator, and it assigns points to a deal based on what that allocator is doing. For example, if you get an unsolicited email from an allocator with a question, game on, okay? They are doing work on you. They have just emailed you kind of out of the blue with a question. Prioritize that deal. Something's up. Get on a plane. So,
I love it.
Like, it's great to track what you're doing, but I'm more interested in what are they doing, if that makes sense, in a meeting or outside of a meeting.
I'm trying to absorb all this. It's just incredible. I feel like I had a PhD. I feel like I had a PhD in how to run a meeting. Wow.
Which is not what we were like set out to do, but I love it.
This is awesome.
Okay.
So I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you follow up after a meeting? And I say, I don't.
Okay.
So they follow up in the meeting.
Oh, that's a nice twist. I like that.
Happens in the meeting. So you can't let them, because we banned in 2011 the word great meeting from the vernacular at Dakota. You can't come back from a meeting and say, it was a great meeting. How's the meeting? It was a great meeting, great meeting.
Oh my God,
okay.
I love that. That's
buying
great.
Signals, everything. Okay, I said,
yeah.
Did they wire 10 million while you were in the meeting? Is that why it was so great? Because if they did, you can say great meeting. Otherwise, I'm a big boy. Just tell me current status and next step. Like, where do we stand? So I said, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that I simply say, just end the meeting and say, like, I really enjoyed our time together.
Yes.
Right? But I do have to ask just a few questions if you don't mind. Sure. Okay, number one, do you think our strategy would fit in your asset allocation mix or model?
Okay.
Right, just so we can get a sense.
Yes.
Chris Greenwell, our good friend, one of the biggest Dakota supporters from Exonic on the planet, he did this for the first time, and he was with somewhat of an esoteric strategy.
Oh, yeah.
And the allocator goes, no.
Great.
Chris is like, well, why did you take the meeting? He goes, it just sounds so interesting.
Brain candy.
So then you're not leaving, right? So then if they say, large cap growth, I do. Well, do you anticipate doing a search in the next 12 months?
That's a great question.
Right, and they're like, then if they say no, mailing list, you have your status. Like, no, really because a lot of people say, hey, listen, I need bench strength, and I wanted to meet you. It was really important I meet you guys. We're not doing anything right now, but that doesn't mean in the future we're not. So what do you think about
I agree with that.
Being like tough in those meetings? I call them the tough questions. They're emotionally tough, not physically tough.
Well, and also because it's a very direct ask. So I think I absolutely love the search and money in motion question. Also BQ, that goes into our score. Okay. If there's money in motion or an active search, your BQ on your deal goes up, right? Money, it's basically like, think about basketball. If the person is standing on the sideline and needs to inbound the ball's going somewhere, okay? The person who gets it, like, someone's gonna get it. Same. Money is in motion, someone's gonna get it. I wanna be the one. I'm gonna step into that, all right? So there's a lot of value in knowing that. I would say before the meeting. So in that prep document, so we're doing this prep document, but the way we're getting the information to fill it out is I'm calling you. You're the allocator again. I'm calling you before the meeting and I say, Gui, we're so, can't wait to see you. This is gonna be great. I'm doing some prep for the meeting. What are some things that you really wanna make sure we hit on? I'll make sure we're ready. I'll make sure we have, and you tell me. And if I don't already know, I'm gonna ask you there, just us. by the way, looking through my notes, I didn't see, is this an active search or is this like more of a bench situation just so I can like temper expectations accordingly? Oh, well, we actually do have an active search. And then I might ask, are you replacing someone or complementing something? Very different.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you can do some of that ahead as well. In the meeting, I love the ask at the end. And I'm laughing because in some ways, your ask is direct but nice. I give everyone homework, like the allocator too.
Tell me. This is amazing.
Basically, I think it's because I wanted to be a professor. So I'm like, in addition to, so I've got my pen, I've got my notes, I'm writing down all the questions. I'm also doing all the to-dos at the bottom. So now at the end, I'm going to recap the to-dos. And I'm going to say, okay, Gui, we need to know X, Y, or Z. Okay, we are going to do these things. Is that right? Have I got everything? And the allocators, here's what's weird. We all hated homework when we were in school. People love homework. They're like, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And we're going to do this. And so now, look, I guess if there was if there's a lot of homework, I know this is going well. If there's not a lot of homework, and I do feel like, I guess it depends on where we are in the deal. If it was a first meeting, I probably wouldn't ask that. I'd probably, well, I guess I do, but I do it in a different way. I would go through the homework, and then I would call you if you're the allocator, just you and me again. Hey, how'd that go? And if we do a Zoom, I hang up the Zoom, I call the allocator instantly. I know you're still there. You just hung up the Zoom, okay? How'd that go? And I give them a chance to tell me, or I'll say, I saw you were kind of wrinkling your nose at this one point. Do you want me? I have some ideas. Want me to get some research on that? I'll take that as homework. Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, cool. We do that, hang up. Now I pick up the phone again. I call the fund manager. Hey, great job. I just talked to the allocator. Whatever I found out. And we have this homework. And go tell Bob I need this file or whatever, right? So I'm still architecting and choreographing it all. I don't always do it in the meeting, although I might try because it's very, I like the directness of it. But I think you have to determine what is the incremental next step. And I would say either ask or do it through that homework kind of idea. And if you have a lot of homework, that's a good sign.
Stacy, this has been like pure magic.
I hope it's helpful to people.
This is insane. This will be far and away, I think, the best, most listened to podcast we've ever done.
I hope so.
I want to close out with one question because I know you're such a thoughtful person. And I ask it of everybody.
Okay.
What advice would you give to a young salesperson getting into our industry today?
Okay. So the advice I would give to a young salesperson would be this, like perfect the craft. Perfect the craft first. And I would use the quote, systemize the repeatable so you can humanize the exceptional. It's actually an EOS quote if you know EOS and Gino Wickman. But I love it because I think there's a lot of pressure when you're new in this business to hit numbers and like do quantity type of work. And that is important. But the problem I have with it is, especially when you're new, if you're doing things maybe not quite right, then you're just doing more of that. And I would rather a newer salesperson take the time. Okay, if our goal is 50, your goal is 25. And what I really want you to do is research every prospect. And I want you to read this book. And I want you to do these things. I want you to perfect the craft first. Systemize the stuff, sending out a fact sheet. Humanize the pieces that really matter. And then once you get that down, then we turn up the dial on the activity. So I would really want them to spend the time learning how to do it right before they learn how to do it frequently, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
I really thought I had a PhD in investment allocator meetings. Now I realize I didn't even graduate from high school. Okay.
Yeah,
So this has been brilliant. And
Thank you for having me.
And I'm telling you right now,
Yeah.
this is going straight on Dakota U in terms of our company training.
Good.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And I can't thank you enough. I'm
so happy.
Usually I'm
that
not
you
quite
said
a
that.
little speechless, but
Yeah.
after going through and listening to you and just the thoughtfulness that you have around,
Yeah.
because doing the investor meetings, which was the theme, we didn't anticipate it coming
No.
out. I didn't know, right? But it's so valuable and so thoughtful, and you have such a differentiated point of view. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you'll invite me back. We
1
can deep
billion
dive on some other thing.
1 billion%. All right,
Okay.
everybody. That was one of the more special discussions I've ever had doing over 40 to 50 of these podcasts. Stacy Havener, incredible. That's a wrap on another Rainmaker podcast, and we can't wait to see you on the next Rainmaker podcast.
You can find this episode and others on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform. We are also available on YouTube if you prefer to watch while you listen. If you would like to check up on past episodes, check out our website, dakota.com. Finally, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please be sure to like, follow, and share these episodes. We welcome all your feedback as well. Thank you for investing your time with Dakota.
Hey, thanks so much for joining Rainmaker Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the show, enjoyed the interview. I know I loved it. And hey, if you wake up in the morning and you raise money for an investment firm, you do cold outreach, whether you're a sales leader or salesperson, and you don't know about Dakota Marketplace, we would love to show it to you. It's world-class. It's used by over 880 investment firms and over 3,600 individual salespeople. To learn more, go to dakota.com and click on a free trial.